Sean Acker is a positive psychologist and professor at Harvard, and he published a book called Big Potential, focused on analyzing what attributes predict our future success. Now, Sean is no new author. Not only has he written Big Potential back in 2018, he actually wrote another one of my favorite books called The Happiness Advantage in 2010. The whole concept behind this book is that if we help others succeed, it actually increases our own chances of success as well. So in this video, we're going to break down the 3 different themes throughout the book. First one being what attributes actually predict team success. Talk a little bit about how to increase positivity in your life, and then also how to reduce negativity as well. Now, Sean opens the book talking about this concept that at a young age, we are shown that over and over again, that our individual metrics are what predict your future success. As an individual, this includes standardized test scores, grades, resumes, medals or certificates, and now as we're entering the workforce, this includes even goals like OKRs. So we spend the majority of our life growing up being judged and critiqued by how we perform on an individual level, what we can, do on our own, where the rest of our life, it's completely reliant on how we work with other people once we enter the workforce. And the author argues that success is not dependent on how smart or driven you are, but it's more dependent on how you can relate and contribute to the ecosystem of people around you. And the author talks a lot about team success, and that individual metrics like intelligence aren't great predictors of team success in general. He actually quotes a study that was done at Google by their data analytics team, where they went through what teams at Google were the highest performing, and then they tried to predict or figure out what attributes predict the team success. And they actually found that there were 2 indicators that predicted overall team success at Google, and that was social sensitivity, which is basically being able to pick up on social cues, and psychological safety, which is developing a culture of safety. Now, I know social sensitivity is kind of a weird one. It's not a super mainstream term, but it's basically someone who can pick up on social cues and be socially respectful. Having low social sensitivity is a bad thing because it's an indicator of low team performance. So let's go over some examples of someone who has low social sensitivity, which is what we are trying to avoid. Now, this would be somebody who interrupts and talks over their coworker constantly in meetings, or someone who is unaware that other people don't understand them necessarily, like they just keep going on and people's eyes glaze over, but they're not getting the social cue to stop talking because no one's really understanding what they're saying. Or someone who gives lots of unsolicited advice. Now, keyword unsolicited. This is advice that nobody asked for. They're just giving advice out without somebody requesting it. Again, this is someone who doesn't pick up on social cues or blurts out a joke during a very serious presentation. And lastly, someone who just doesn't understand that their email comes across very aggressive or just mean in general, and they're not understanding how those words impact the other person. Psychological safety, on the other hand, is very mainstream. I'm sure you've heard it across many different books. A lot of people talk about this, and this is the belief that you won't be humiliated for speaking up with ideas, concerns, or just asking questions in general. The key word here is punished or humiliated. Nobody wants to be judged for asking a question, and it's more of a cultural thing. It's something you can build up over time, and a couple bad things can destroy your psychological safety on a team. Another theme within this book is that when you connect or you surround yourself with a bunch of high potential and positive people, it increases your likelihood of future success. So the question you want to ask yourself is who is the top 5 people you are spending the most time with? Then he suggests categorizing your friends in 3 different categories. The first one is pillars. These are your rocks, essentially. These are your emotional rocks. And then you have bridges. These are the people who connect you to other people within other groups. And finally, extenders. And those are people who kind of push you out of your comfort zone. So he says to basically make this Venn diagram, right? Put pillars on one circle, and then bridges on another circle, and then extenders on the last circle. And then finally, just put your friends in each one of them, and they overlap, right? So if you have somebody who's a bridge and a pillar, you can put them in that space, right? So you wanna just place them in there and get an idea of who you are surrounding yourself with, and you want a nice balance of both. Again, focus on this idea of positivity, right? Because when you increase someone's mood, you can increase their performance. And that's kind of what he's trying to say here is surround yourself by positive, high potential people, and then they will also become more positive, and then they will also more likely to succeed as well. Now, he has a couple tips in the sense of building other people up and being positive for other people as well. And he says you can do this by adding significantly more praise, so the quantity of praise, but then also changing your type of praise, how you are praising people. There was actually a LinkedIn research study that showed that at a company or across companies, there's an 80% retention rate when they start. And within the quarter, if you praise them one time, it pretty much stays the same. 2 times stays the same, but once you get to that 3 and 4 mark within the quarter of praise, that it starts to jump up to 94% retention rate. And again, this is just free, right? So if you're working at a company and you want to keep your coworkers around, or you want to keep the people that are working for you around, you just have to praise them, and all of a sudden the retention rate goes up. What's actually really interesting is that when you praise somebody or recognize them for something, they're more likely to recognize other people. So it's almost like this circular thing where you praise somebody 4 times throughout the year, they're more likely, I think it's like double more likely to praise somebody else or give somebody else recognition. And then it just kind of grows from there. Now, the other thing you can do besides increasing the amount of recognition or praise that you give somebody is actually changing the type of praise. And this is something I never really thought about, but instead of saying, oh, you were the best speaker today, don't compliment at somebody else's expense, right? So instead of saying that, you could say, you gave a really great presentation and I liked it because of this, this, and this. So in that way, it doesn't take away from the other speakers, right? So don't praise somebody at the expense of other people. Okay, great. So we know what traits are great for team success. We know we want to surround ourselves by positive people. Now we have to get into negativity. There's a lot of new research, especially written throughout this book, that you can pick up stress and negativity like secondhand smoke. A negative family member or coworker can increase your cortisol or stress hormone levels by 26%. And you don't even need to see or hear someone. There's a lot of research saying that you can actually smell the stress and negativity on somebody, which I find is absolutely insane. Now, there are a few ways that you can decrease overall negativity. The first one is using what he calls the power lead. The next is news reduction, and finally, a meeting detox. Okay, so what is a power lead? Basically what he's trying to say is that when you go into a meeting, a lot of people say, oh my gosh, it's Friday, I'm so glad, or I'm swamped, or I'm drowning in work. Instead of starting with that, lead with something a little bit more powerful, like, hey, I'm super excited to do this project with you. We never get to work together. And this is something that I'm absolutely terrible at. I always come into a meeting super negative. So this is something I'm definitely gonna start doing. Another thing we can do is avoid news. Apparently there was a bunch of research done that about 3 minutes, that's not that much time, is equivalent to 27% of people saying that they were more miserable or negative 6 to 8 hours later in the day. So a good rule of thumb is to just avoid news in the morning so that it doesn't affect you throughout the day. Lastly, we can do a meeting detox. We know that a lot of meetings can come out very negative, right? Because you're trying to solve problems, especially reoccurring meetings too. So what he suggests is actually to do a detox. Basically, remove all your reoccurring meetings for 2 weeks and see if you actually need those meetings. Now, I already avoid reoccurring meetings like the plague. If you've ever worked with me, I will push back on reoccurring meetings so much because when I need to talk to somebody, I will get a hold of you. I do not need to be put in a reoccurring meeting. So hopefully this gave you a better understanding of what attributes predict team success, how to add a little bit of positivity into your life, and how to remove a little bit of negativity as well, with a lot of actionable tips that you can take away and try out on your own. Now, if you like positive psychology, there was this book released called Feel Good Productivity by Ali Abdaal. It's a phenomenal read talking about how to bring more joy into your work, and again, reaping the benefits of positive psychology. So I will link that up here. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time.